Welcome to the DeFi Standard. This is Patty XRP, and
Mickey B. Fresh.
today we are going to be talking about a new layer 2 protocol that is going to be, or really is in the process of launching right now, called Qredo. And Mickey, you want to start us off with a brief introduction there?
Sure. So this is one of the most fascinating projects that I've come across in all the crypto spheres. Now, there's many projects out there, we've all looked into, but this is one that I think is going to have an impact on the actual marketplace and the trading, the exchanges, and DeFi. So what is Qredo? Qredo is a decentralized asset management infrastructure and product suite designed to unlock opportunities for institutional and retail investors in cryptocurrencies and decentralized finance. Qredo is a layer 2 blockchain protocol that enables users to seamlessly transfer and settle Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other leading cryptocurrencies. Qredo's advanced generation 2.0 multi-party computation provides tier 1 bank security and eliminates the anxiety of private key management. Qredo's network is designed to enable institutional and retail investors to secure, settle, and access digital liquidity pools and participate in new innovations across DeFi. And one of the big things, if you caught it in there, was eliminate the anxiety of a private key.
Yeah, that's basically the biggest part of this, Vicky, I would say, is that it's a permissionless, decentralized layer 2 protocol that uses multi-party computation to hold assets. If you guys have been following along with our Polysign series, you know full well that that's the direction they're going in. Mickey, we've seen SBIs making multi-party computation wallets as well as some of the other big custodians out there.
Absolutely. And now being a layer 2 protocol, what it allows is for all these assets to seamlessly be traded on this layer 2 network without having to pay the transaction fees of the underlying network. But at the same time, they're not custodied by the centralized exchanges. So what really Qredo is, it's a new way to trade assets. So the Qredo network has its own wallet, and you're able to connect to different centralized exchanges and to the blockchain underlying it simultaneously. So you could trade from, say, Ethereum to Bitcoin, and say you could get that price, that trade from a centralized exchange without having to actually have an account with them. Now, this is the new way of trading, and this is very similar to what Polysign's doing. Now, Polysign's a private blockchain. This is a public blockchain. It's going to have its own native token, Qredo, and we're going to get into that. And also, Qredo stands for quantum re-encryption decryption operations, I believe. It's quantum resistant quantum resistant re-encryption something operation, but I know it's quantum resistant. Sorry, I don't have that one off the top of my head. It's a lot of information to unpack here. So we're going to give a broad overview of this, but this is for retail to participate in, and you'll be able to move your assets onto the Qredo wallet.
Yeah, and so with that, Mickey, just kind of a brief overview of like what's going on with multi-party computation. So everybody knows you have like your private key that gives you access to the actual funds on a blockchain. And with that, it introduces some centralization risk if there's a single point of failure, which in that case, if you're holding the private keys, there is. So what they do is they basically shard or distribute parts of the private key out to different nodes in their ecosystem, and then they bring it together in a decentralized way when it's time to move those funds around or do something with it. So it's basically distributing the custody risk that you would normally have with a single private key. Why is that important? Well, think about if you're an investment fund or a big institution, a bank or something like that. Do you want, your trader just holding the private keys, whoever is going to be making the trades with specific fund sets? Or would you rather have it distributed in a way that they can't just lose it on accident or something like that? And when you're dealing with, multiple millions of dollars or potentially billions of dollars, um, you can't accept that kind of compliance risk. So this is something really big. And while a lot of it's broadcast to institutional firms, funds, CeFi providers, and stuff like that, it's also still open for retail. I've even gone and set up a wallet already and stuff like that to check it out. There's not a lot you can do right now, but they're slowly rolling it out currently. And we'll get into the roadmap more, but that kind of is a brief breakdown of the MPC part.
And I just want to clarify here, we have absolutely no sponsorship, no connection to Qredo at all in any way. We are not paid by Qredo. It's just a project that Patty and I came across, and we find fascinating in the similarities to what Polysign is doing. And this is kind of the trend of where wallets are going to go in the future, and the idea of trading, because all these exchanges, they trade in a database that's off chain, and you have to be on that exchange. You can't be in a wallet and then trade from this exchange to that exchange. And then you can't connect to DeFi. Now with Qredo, you can be able to connect to all these different things. So being a layer 2 blockchain network, this is a flexible design, because any blockchain it could integrate with. Now it has this broker module and the MPC nodes that connect down to the actual native blockchains themselves. So the assets actually stay on the blockchains, but they trade then on the Qredo network, which is secured by a consensus-driven multi-party computation. And one thing that we found fascinating here in the similarities with how Flare's tokenomics is designed is that it's a user-centric tokenomics. So the design is to incentivize the participation in the network. And that goes for traders, liquidity providers, stakers, and also validators. All are able to earn Qredo tokens. And now let's get into some of the tokenomics of the actual Qredo token, Patty.
Yeah. So with that, basically there's going to be 1 billion tokens as the initial supply. The inflation cap is set to 2 billion tokens, and those wouldn't be distributed until 50 years has passed. So they would be slowly distributed over 50 years in the form of incentives and things like that for validators, for people providing liquidity, people providing loans, market making, things of that nature. And
Staking.
staking. And with the 1 billion tokens, very little are out right now. It's just a few million in total, as they just started some trading on Woo, Qcoin, and CoinX, I believe. So it's very new to the market as far as open trading. And additionally, with this token distribution, we can see that they've had private sales, a public sale, which, Mickey, what were the terms for the public sale that just happened?
Okay, so there was a private token sale, which we'll talk about right after this. But the public sale took place in July, I believe. And there were two options. There was option one. You were able to buy, now in US, obviously US residents couldn't participate. You were able to buy Qredo tokens at 50 cents, but you only were able to buy a max of $500 worth. So that limits anybody from buying, being a whale. And then the second option was you could buy $1,000 worth of Qredo tokens at 25 cents, but it was vested over a period of 12 months. It would be released a little each week to you, where option one at 50 cents, you were able to get on September 14th. Those are going to be released. So I think it came out to a total of only like, it was like, I would say like 7% of the supply. It was a very small amount of the supply. And there was a private token sale that was sold to institutional investors. And here's where it got really interesting for Patty and I when we dug into this, of who the investors are in this project. So the private token sale was Nexo, Celsius, Wintermute, GSR, Genesis Capital, and other. What's that?
I was going to say Deribit.
Deribit. So these are all actual CeFi platforms. And then in their VC funding round, Coinbase, and other big names that you typically, Borderless Capital, Kinetic Capital. There were like 5 that overlapped with Flare, LD Capital. So they raised about 11 million in the actual VC funding, and I think another 13 million in the actual sale of the private tokens. So why these big names like CeFi exchanges purchasing these tokens and investing in Qredo? And this is something that's, the Qredo network's not like just launching now. It's been operational for the last 2-3 years. It's just operational in a centralized way, and then they're going to plan on decentralizing it and releasing the token. So the tokens that do get released on September 14th, there's going to be no whales because nobody got more than $500 worth. And that's going to, I think, provide a fair marketplace for trading. There's going to be no dumping going on, I feel like.
Yeah. And with that, on all these partners, so they had a few interviews they did. One was with Alex Mashinsky of Celsius, and it was very interesting, but they kind of have issues with getting, having enough liquidity available and things of that nature for larger clients, whether it be institutions, funds, banks, whatever it may be. So they're partnering with Qredo to be able to expand that and also, eliminate some of the pre-funding needs at their exchanges. And also another kind of beauty of this network is as everything's being accounted for in layer 2 of the protocol, this means that if there's 2 people on the Qredo blockchain that want to swap assets on different blockchains, you don't actually have to have a way to swap between layer 1, as all the tokens that are owned down to the layer 1 of these blockchains, so Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP Ledger, these are all going to be represented as derivatives in the layer 2 network. So they can just simply swap the accounting of the 2 derivatives between 2 parties that agree to trade. So that makes it really simple and avoid any complexities with swapping directly over layer 1. And then with this layer 3, they have a decentralized messaging system that allows all of these like institutions to communicate with each other, whether it be for like travel rule compliance. They can provide information to VASPs and things of that nature. So there is some compliance elements that are built into this. And also they provide these institutions with accounting logic, so you can tell which tokens that you have currently are representing assets and liabilities. So like if you took out some tokens on loan, well, that's a liability that you're going to have to pay back at some time. They'll have very low collateral requirements for taking out lending. Like they could do it based on like credit record with knowing different parties that are on the Qredo network. They'll have the atomic swapping, just like we were saying, where they can just swap the derivative version in layer 2 and between these wallets. So it's offering like a broad range of things that more institutional regulated players are going to be able to use. And I think that's really exciting as, people kind of talk about, when's the institutional money going to come in and stuff like this. Well, Qredo is one of those things that can help in that process and facilitate that. So I think it's just a huge development for the DeFi and crypto space. And it also, provides people with a way, if you want to, you watch Polysign and you're excited about that. Well, here is kind of the public facing one that you can actually get your hands on. So that's kind of how I look at it. It's a new technology. So, who knows if there'll be bumps in the roads and things like that. But it is, I really think in the future, like the private key management of individuals is going to be done away with. And that means most likely multi-party computation will be a part of the future.
Absolutely. And here are the similarities with Polysign. How we know that it's so similar is the way that Jack McDonald described memorializing these transactions on the Polysign blockchain is the same thing Qredo's doing. And it says right here, it basically records the digital ownership rights on an immutable distributed ledger. Now, the MPC protocol generates multiple independent secrets from the private key, which are then distributed between MPC nodes that are coordinated by blockchain consensus. and it uses Tendermint consensus. Now, it does use proof of stake, so the validators do. You can delegate Qredo to validators and earn that way as well. But you're able to actually trade and do everything right there on this layer 2 network. Now, there's a new feature that just was announced on Twitter. There's going to be auto staking. So basically, you're going to have to download, but it's a web wallet. And this is where the security, I was just blown away at how secure. Like, I thought even without the multi-party computation, the actual wallet itself was super secure because it had a web wallet, which you had to download. You signed some terms and conditions. And then you had a mobile signing app, which you created biometrics to authorize and a PIN. And then that signs the transactions on your desktop mobile wallet. And now on that web wallet, it's like a console. Like it's like an enterprise console. You could create different types of funds, and underneath those different wallets, and you could have different trust networks set up. And then it showed the whole institutional side on the left for like exchanges, for corporate treasuries, and all types of things. So the quality of the web wallet was like, it was like an app that blew me away. And the security is you have to have the mobile device, sign in with your biometrics, and put in a 6-digit PIN just to move any transactions on the actual Qredo network. And then the seed phrase is stored in the secure element on your phone. So it's basically your phone is the nano ledger then, and you have these two different devices. So that security there, and on top of that, there's no private key once the multi-party computation goes live, so there's nothing to steal. And they're just representations of those assets held in the multi-party computation network of Qredo. So the security-wise is blown away. Like this takes, I understand that hardware wallets have been the most secure way to do this, but that's changing now. That's ending. There's now newer ways to remove this private key. If you could remove that you have to secure it, then it's better security. So this allows you to do so much more. Now we're at the early stages here, and this is the first network to do this. And Polysign's really doing it more on a capital market side, where I see them, integrating with the traditional wealth management firms and them. Where I see Qredo as a little more crypto native and retail facing. So it's not like they're necessarily competitors, kind of, but they're going for different markets. And this pie is plenty big. And now, Patty, is this competition to something like Flare with F assets?
I mean, it can be in a sense, but I think this is more for just swapping assets between two chains. So like, let's say you need to do an OTC trade or something like that, then you can get quotes from market makers on the Qredo layer 2, and using that decentralized messaging in layer 3. So it's more to like swap between those. Maybe if you have requirements for the end of day as, a bank or a fund or something like that. With Flare, what you're really doing is it's more like unlocking the value of an asset that's on another blockchain onto the Flare blockchain. And it also still keeps the asset free. So I would say the F asset system is like fundamentally doing, cross-chain interoperability different than most others. Qredo, is different than most of the layer 1 bridges we've seen made. It's operating in layer 2 and facilitating you're allowing you to use like these derivatives and swap between those instead of finding ways to move the assets on layer 1. So I think they're different. What they're going for is different. So, I mean, I guess in a sense you can say it's competition, but there's also like different use cases for each one.
Absolutely. And I think being a layer 2, makes it, just inherently a different business model, what it's going for. Where Flare is Ethereum based with, smart contracts and the DeFi. But that could integrate, with Qredo. And Qredo is going to integrate with many different blockchains. And these underlying blockchains, this is why, when things say, oh, it's doing 60,000 transactions a second, it's not going to matter in the future because not everything is going to happen on layer 1. And now we're starting to see the layer 2 boom happening. So layer 2 has their own validator set. They have their own governance now. So it has its own token, where side chains could be a little different. What's going on in the XRP ledger. That's a little different than, say, a layer 2. So we're going to see probably multiple layer 2s connect to Flare over time. Since it's EVM based, I expect that to be a very easy integration. Now, a Qredo token technically is an ERC20 token, but once it's on the Qredo network, there's no gas fees or any fees for anything. And even if you're moving Bitcoin on there and you wanted to trade and use it in any liquidity pool, there's no fees. So that's one thing that's really nice. And there's a lot of rewards. So like what Patty said, there's about 1 billion tokens, and I think it's only like something like 100 million are going to be out there or less initially. So all that token inflation and distribution is going to go to the user participation. And this is the future of where all these crypto networks are going. Every one of them. The old legacy blockchains like XRP, Bitcoin, and Litecoin, those days of miners and even Stellar are over. Now it's like, if you want to create a smart contract blockchain, you need to incentivize users. And when David Schwartz said no incentive is the best incentive, he just said that about consensus. I see people confusing that on Twitter and in the community. And it's very important. That is not what he said about participation. He said that just about consensus. And layer 2 is different. You do need to incentivize some of the validator sets here because they're multi-party computation. So they do need to be able to earn some types of rewards because they're running that computation. Now, they're also running another program called validator buyback. So on the 1st to the 3rd of every month, the validators will be using their fees that they collect to buy back Qredo off the market. So that's pretty interesting. And there's going to be an auto staking feature. I think is going to begin after the public token is released, after the public token sales is released to the investors on September 14th. You'll be able to stake right in your wallet, earn 10.1% APY. So these are, once again, more network rewards where you could earn. So when you're looking at, not financial advice here, but when you're looking at what tokens am I going to purchase, what's going to earn me money and yield, and it could be still in a decentralized self-custody way, is what I'm looking at. Instead of just, using CeFi platforms or other things, what can I hold in my own custody and earn yield on and then utilize that network? And that's what these networks are meant to be, used. They're not stocks.
Yeah. And with that, Mickey, I kind of want to everybody on the screen, we have a really nice infographic from their light paper, kind of showing the whole suite of the protocol here. So at the top, this is capital market participants, and they'll tap into this whole tech stack. So with that, Qredo Limited is going to be, its own individual company. There'll be the Qredo protocol. That's the decentralized, blockchain basically in layer 2. And with that, they'll have a Qredo web app and a Qredo signing app that Mickey talked about. So that'll include custody, one for liquidity, another one for compliance. So those are some of the things they're going to offer out the gate. Then they already said they have some of these partners that they're working with. So like Celsius, Nexo, Coinbase, GSR, people like that. They'll be building their own applications. They have an API through Apache Milagro. They're part of that, and it will enable different, business partners or people utilizing the Qredo Layer 2 network to build their own applications. So like, let's say there's something specific they need to do with their funds, and it makes sense for them to build their own interface and things like that to do it. So that, it's open in that way. And then below that, this will be where they have libraries and the API that they integrate through that speaks to the Qredo blockchain and the Qredo messaging system. And then below that, they have something called a watcher, which is it's the technical terms, a daemon. And that is kind of what communicates with the layer 1 blockchain to the layer 2. And then they'll have their MPC node cluster. And then with that, in layer 1, you'll have access to cryptocurrencies, ERC20 tokens, and DeFi protocols. So taking us further down here, Mickey, as well, they have a nice little, if it doesn't get stuck, a nice little overview of, here's a good one. They have some nice other infographics. So with that, they kind of compare like what is Qredo. So if you look at MPC tech custodian services and cross-chain protocols, they list Thorchain, Ren, Keep, Copper, Curve, and Fireblocks. So Qredo is like a meshing of the two. And then if we look at let's go down a little farther, the roadmap here. Okay, so where is this going to be available? Right now, they have Bitcoin and Ethereum integrated. They also have Tether and USDC. This includes their layer 2 trading and settlement, decentralized custody, enterprise grade crypto wallets, and cross chain swaps, and their liquidity hub. And then they also have the top 20 ERC20 tokens. So, like Uniswap's on there already, 1inch, a few others. And then what they have in progress, they'll be integrating their layer 2 with Algorand, Solana, Binance Smart Chain, Polkadot, and then including all top 60 ERC20 tokens. They'll have their trader chat, travel rule compliance, and DeFi hub. And then planned for next year, they'll have Cardano and Stellar, the top 100 ERC20 tokens, click to cover insurance and crypto money markets. So they're adding more in the future. And with that, we were talking about, we can see these are like the main DeFi smart contract blockchains, at least some of them. I'd say like Avalanche and Terra are the ones that they don't have included. And obviously Flare Network, but that's not even out there as a blockchain yet with the token trading. But I think this is possibly something that we could see integrate with Flare in the future for sure, Mickey.
Absolutely. And this is a new type of interoperability. And they're using cutting edge technology. Like multi-party computation has been around for, a couple decades, but it hasn't been till recently they've been able to combine it with threshold signatures and consensus and create this new way of doing interoperability between networks. So when you say interoperability, there's many different ways. No one, way is gonna be like, oh, that's it. That operating system is going to do all the interoperability for everything. There's different ways to do interoperability. Are we communicating, or are we actually, doing trading? So for doing atomic swaps, this is technology for interoperability is probably the best because you're actually able to abstract away from the underlying blockchains. And this is important, showing that not everything is going to run on layer 1. And this is another reason why I think we go back to XRP Ledger here, why David Schwartz and Arthur Qredo, when they built it, they wanted to keep it as lean as possible because they knew all the applications and the, development and fun stuff that will get built, innovative, is going to be built above the blockchains. So just those core components are needed there. So the whole idea of having smart contracts at layer 1, you don't necessarily need for XRP Ledger. But then, things like Flare are able to now do federated Byzantine agreement and smart contracts. So I like that Qredo has breakthrough technology. Flare has breakthrough technology in its state connector system and its Oracle system here. And these are the projects that I think are going to have an impact on the market because they integrate with other blockchains. They're not just trying to be a silo or just build a little bridge to Ethereum like every other blockchain is trying to do. So these projects, I think, will have big impacts. And those are the things that I'm looking for. I think you too as well would agree, Patty, the projects that impact the market. Another one is like Polkadot. That's why we're so big on that, because that's going to have such an impact on the market. And they're going to create these massive ecosystems and not just be like their little old walled gardens, like what we've seen in the past. And this shows the market is evolving. We thought, hey, nano ledgers, we're going to hold our keys on there for 10 years and then we're going to sell and be at the moon. That's not the case anymore now. Now it's participating in the networks, getting evolved. But you could also be a trader. So if you wanted to trade, you could do that here too. But the importance, I would like, everyone to get out of this video, and I know the tech is hard to understand, and, we're still wrapping our head around it, is that the whole market's evolving, and expect to keep learning and leveling up your knowledge and finding new ways of how to participate. And we're going to have more and more tokens, more and more investable opportunities. We're not going to get rid of all these tokens. So moving forward, we're going to keep an eye on Qredo, but it's just a very complex technology. Would you not agree, Patty?
Yeah, I mean, we could probably do like a dedicated what is MPC video and what's going on with that in the future for people that want to know the technicals behind that. But I do want to add, Mickey, since the Qredo token's been trading for about a week now. It when it launched on Qcoin, basically the price went from 50 cents to $20 in the matter of a couple hours. The price crashed extremely quickly after that. and is now sitting at around $1.15. The current market cap with the supply out there right now is $1.1 million. If you took the fully diluted market cap, which is for the total of 1 billion, or actually they're saying 2 billion, but that wouldn't be here in 50 years. So I would do it based on one, which also won't be fully distributed until it's about 10 years in total. It'd be about $1.3 million. So very small market cap. The trading's been pretty volatile so far. But yeah, so I just wanted people to know that if you're interested in buying, take those things into account. Also know, there's going to be a release of the token to some other people that bought in early in a week or so. So, do with that what you will. But I think it's just important to address. And Mickey, we had some good video clips just to share with people from team conversations that I think can help, put it in words better than we can from people with the projects. And I think we can get into that now.
Absolutely. Can I just want to add one thing
Yeah,
to the
definitely.
exchanges? So the two exchanges and with Woo, so Qcoin, Gate.io, and Woo are the only, they had special contracts with them to support organic liquidity prior to the public token sale get released on September 14th. Once that happens, you'll see it on more exchanges. So that's why, there's liquidity on Qcoin if you wanted to go there. That's up to you. It's not, financial advice, but those are exclusively only on those exchanges now. There probably will be a big expansion in the future. I mean, Coinbase did invest in them. Usually when Coinbase invests in something, they eventually will get listed. Not saying it will, but expect, more listings in the future going from there. But these are some great clips. So let's get into this, Patty.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, I mean, they are, so if you go, you can look at their Twitter and they've been putting out a lot of information recently. So they have plans to launch in some bigger exchange markets.
And they got a great website, and I think they have the insurance through Lloyd's for the MPC validators, I believe. Don't quote me on that one, but I know there's an insurance, and the security audit was already done.
They've had multiple. They had 3
multiple
security audits. They had a peer-reviewed
Wow.
paper on their MPC. So, I mean, they've had a lot of people look at it, at least. So, for people wondering about that too, you can access that stuff on their website. And Mickey actually found a tweet they put out earlier today, which, it doesn't tell you a ton of information, but there's going to be some coming. So, they said as far as partnerships, big players are working with Qredo. This month, we'll be revealing the first of many exchange integrations, strategic partnership with a leading DeFi market access provider, and last but not least, how Qredo is helping power Bitcoinization in Latin America. So those are some interesting things that we'll be finding out throughout the month that they're ready to reveal. So I definitely say keep an eye on those. And with that, we'll go ahead and get into these videos. So this first one is going to be with the CTO, and then also, I believe, one of the head guys from Hedge Garden, which provides software solutions for trading and portfolio management. So here we go with that.
I'd say you get a one pane of glass view that gives you front office, middle office, and back office with world-class decentralized custody that is highly secure, that enables you to apply your own governance and custodial mechanisms on top of that are applicable for capital markets customers, and have one single source of truth and do the types of trading that have long been, dismissed as not really possible, but you can do that now, which is atomically swap layer one assets across different chains. And this is the key thing, without counterparty, settlement, payment, or delivery risk. It all happens or it doesn't happen at all. And
nice. So I know that was sideways. I couldn't fix it, but I'll know in the future with this software. Big things he said there. So they're going to be a front, middle, and back office solution for institutions that want to get into DeFi. They have all the regulatory stuff they can keep track of. They have accounting. They have access to things that capital markets participants are accustomed to dealing with. With the MPC, you can set up multiple custodians of different funds within your business. So maybe only certain people can access certain ones and things like that. So it offers a lot of like compliance solutions for them in that way. And then, they're going to have access to market makers. They can get quotes. And this will, enable them to do, like they said, the atomic swapping, which, was when I first got into crypto, Mickey, atomic swapping was like, I feel like one of the big things that would eventually be here in the future and would be really important. And, we're at a place where there's projects doing that now. So that's cool.
Yep. And you're going to need liquidity to do that atomic swapping.
Yes.
So that's connecting to these exchanges. So I've heard a lot of people say, oh, it's impossible to swap one asset for another. Well, you can if you do it at layer 2. Doing it at layer 1 is very difficult. And that's been a problem. And I think there's been many attempts, and they've all pretty much, kind of failed. If it's just a straight trade, we're not talking about moving assets onto the blockchains. That's what Flare does. This is just atomic swap. I want this asset for that asset. Typically, you got to go on exchange. You do that on the database. This one, you do on a layer 2 blockchain. So it's memorializing the transactions there, just like Polysign does.
There you go. And so for this next video, it's a little bit of a longer one, but it's going to speak directly to the Qredo token, which I think everybody will want to hear.
We're now seeing that the Qredo token is integral to the overall functioning of the Qredo network. Anthony, what is unique about the Qredo token, and why do you think that this will be a key fuel for the Qredo network going forward?
I think what we have done is taken a very, a fresh look at how should a token be designed in order to drive adoption and utilization of a layer 2. And a layer 2, particularly a layer 2 like Qredo's, where multi-chain, multi-participant, multi-business models that need to be able to hook into it, you're building a marketplace. So you have to have a set of incentives that work for all of the participants across for the participants that are sensitive to speed and transactions and security, to the participants that are sensitive to cost. But ultimately, you have to design it so that it's designed for the user and not for the validators. And that's really what we've done. Is that's the unique take that we've built, is that the predominance of economic value is going to the users of the users of the network. So the people that are coming on to swap, store, or transact on the network, they are their fees that are associated with the network, also benefiting from rebates, significant and very generous rebates that are coming in Qredo tokens for their participation on the network. And for the other side of the marketplace, which are the liquidity providers and the market makers, we are embracing them as partners. So we're not charging them fees. We are granting them tokens. We are participating in the based upon the assets they have staked and the transactions that they run across the network. And so with all of this kind of interlocking activity that happens within the Qredo token and with this user-centric design, it actually creates a really strong economic story for the validators on our network. So the validators on our network, they're not only able to, they benefit from all of the layer 1 fees that are being collected off the network that are used in order to acquire Qredo tokens on the broader marketplace, either from market makers within the network or from secondary markets, creating buy pressure on the Qredo token. And it's all designed back to this concept of what Brian was saying earlier of how do we turn custody into a yield? How do we turn this into a profit center? And the design of the token is fundamental to turning our utilization of the network into a profit center for the people that are users of the network.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then in summary, we've got a couple of incentives here within the network. We've got transaction mining for the users. We've got custody mining, so rewards for people holding their assets in the network. We've got liquidity mining, so we've got rewards and incentives for people providing liquidity within the network. And in addition to that, this income accrues with validators. People can then stake their Qredo token with validators to earn a share of the yield that the validators are accruing by, obviously being integral to the overall governance of the network. So we've got a number of incentives that we've built in and hard baked into the network to drive transactions, assets on the network, and really what we're aiming for is a network effect. I think that's fair to say, right? It's a network effect that we're pointing at that will be accretive to the users, as well as it will be to the overall kind of Qredo token holders, to create this really interesting, exciting dynamic between usage and a token. So a lot to unpack there. We could probably even just have a
session on its own, yeah.
Just the token itself, right? Maybe we will. Maybe we got time for that.
Cool. So right there, you can hear they have what they call a user-centric tokenomic design. So with that, the Qredo token is meant to be given to all the people using the layer 2 network in any which way. So whether it's just holding assets there, staking with validators, providing liquidity, acting as a market maker, providing loans, things like that. There's a lot of opportunities to have that Qredo token back to you to get some additional incentives.
Yes, and we just know they just announced yesterday that the auto staking feature will be a one-click staking from your Qredo web wallet right on there. So more details to come on that. But in the meantime, if you are interested in this, what you can do is you can set up a Qredo web wallet. Now, you do have to, I believe, put in your identity information. So there is that aspect to this. And that then you have to download the mobile website, the mobile app to sign that goes with the web wallet app, which is, I think it's more of like a console. I think of more than a wallet because it has all its features. And it reminds me of when you look at some of those institutional custody, when you go on their websites, you see what their interfaces look like. That's what the Qredo interface looks like. It's got all these, institutional enterprise type stuff, but it's self-custody. So this is I'm just amazed at how the future here and the Qredo token having that user-centric design, it reminds me a lot of what Flare did. Like that's where these networks are going. It's not, oh, I'm just going to build this token. It's going to be scarce and it's going to go up in value. I'm going to sell it to the next person, or it's just going to pay for gas fees. You need the token to incentivize the network effects, and then its value could be used in other ways. I really like how they designed the tokenomics here. Very different from how Flare's doing it, but that, each network I think has its own, design. And this,
and it's also a layer 2. So I feel like they
true.
Need different kind of incentive mechanisms. Yeah.
Great point there with the layer 2. So they're incentivizing their validators because they're doing the multi-party computation nodes, using computational power. You got to get incentivized for that aspect there too. And then they're planning to go into become a decentralized autonomous organization, which is a DAO, which also Flare is going to be a decentralized autonomous organization too. And then the dApps. So how is this different, Patty? Just so the viewers could understand the difference here between something like a Flare Finance decentralized application and a layer 2, because I've gotten that question a lot. Briefly.
Yeah. So the difference, so like things like, we'll take Flare, for example, Flare Network is the layer 1. On top of that, you have Flare Finance, Probity, let's say Sparkle's NFT platform or something like that. Those are going to be what are dApps. They're built on top of layer 1. And layer 2 is, abstracted above the layer 1 blockchain, and it uses daemons, which are these connectors that can send messages between layer 1 and layer 2. So they need some kind of connector to communicate with one another. And so that's the main difference. So, I guess like if you have a decentralized layer 2, you could say a dApp can be built on top of that as well. I just know dApps are generally used to describe things built on top of layer 1, but they will be, they're going to be applications. Application's a word that can be used for so many different things. But, the difference between them is layer 1 and layer 2 need some kind of connector between them. But like dApps can directly talk to the underlying blockchain because they're built on them.
Yes, great description. So you can just see how these layer 2s are going to work with all different blockchains, and even these decentralized applications are going to go onto other networks too. Like Compound is planning to become eventually a Polkadot parachain. You're going to see these decentralized applications, the bigger ones like Aave, they're going to move to other blockchains too. and we're going to see more layer 2s come out. So what does this mean as the whole kind of crypto market, like the infrastructure, evolves? We're going to probably have a core group of infrastructure layer 1s, and then from there we'll have an explosion of layer 2s, dApps, side chains, and all other things. So not everything is going to have to happen on your like underlying blockchain. And back in 2018, you know, when I came into the market early 2018, it was like, oh well, this is the blockchain, everything's going to happen on there, that's going to be the winner in the end. Or there's just going to be, you know, 10 coins left and 99% of them are going to disappear. You know, I'm just so happy to see that the market is evolving in a way at this speed, that we're seeing the innovation like this, for example, Qredo, and like what Flare's doing, and what Polysign's doing, and even what Ripple's XRP Ledger's doing with the side chains and Polkadot. It's expanding so rapidly. So, you know, everyone focuses sometimes, oh, the regulatory crackdown and this or that. This is all decentralized things. They're just going to keep going. There's no cracking down on this. And, you know, it's going to just keep progressing. So I think we need to keep expanding our knowledge here. And 99% of the world is not. So if you're just listening to this video, you're 99.99% ahead of the world in just understanding these projects. And we're able to get in before the retail, before the institutional investors even see these opportunities. So it's great to see that there's new ways to get in at the ground floor, like we've been talking about with Flare and Songbird and Flare Finance. We're able to get in at the beginning of these things. That's very rare. Without the days of ICOs, when you used to have to, you know, purchase an ICO, wait 2 years to get the tokens. Now you could get on the ground floor of these things right when they begin, because there's network rewards, there's airdrops going on, the XRP Ledger like crazy. We got Flare Finance doing an airdrop. We got reward distributions. So, you know, it's important to keep up here on the whole market and not get stuck in sometimes an echo chamber of just one network or token and thinking everything else is going to disappear. So that's one thing that my, you know, perspective has evolved over time. And yes, I am 100% bull that XRP is going to be huge, but I am not going to be sitting here in denial thinking there's an echo chamber that XRP is going to take over everything and there'll be 5 other networks and everything else is going to get crushed. Like, that's just naive to think that. But at the same time, you know, you got to pick and choose what you want to invest in. And that's not financial advice.
All right. Well, I think this is a good point for us to leave the video. Let us know if you guys have any questions below. So this is the DeFi Standard. I'm Patty XRP. And
I'm Mickey B. Fresh.
And we are out. See y'all.